What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to you about NIO. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down, what moved it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So NIO did go down 2.73%, 475 the high, 463 the low. So kind of traded within a set range, but we did see fairly low volume. So roughly around 37 million shares being traded. A lot of that did come from algorithmic trading as per usual. And a lot of that was feeding off of the kind of increased tensions, geopolitical tensions with now Canada. So that's on kind of the chopping block. And that stems from the PM recent comments against the States, saying that we need a pretty much new world order and whatever else. So definitely a bold move, but nonetheless, we also did see a increase in larger transactions somewhat, and that is linked to hedge funds. And so hedge funds, interestingly enough, were selling out, not just with NIO, but across the board. And that is because of this right over here. So the increase in yen against the US dollar historically does cause a lot of hedge funds to deleverage and kind of go risk off. So again, that is possibly why we did see some activity, more specifically on the dark pool, which I will go over in a second. But there really wasn't that much in macro data from China. There was a couple of data points from the States, but it all came in line with expectation. So nothing really to worry about in my opinion. So none of the price action in the broader market was because of this. Interestingly enough, there was a new launch, and generally every time there is a new launch, whether it be a special edition or whatever, that usually does move NIO higher, but this didn't budget whatsoever. So Onvo has launched a new L90 Limited Edition, and so it's kind of called instant success. That's what it translates to. So definitely pretty bold move or bold wording for that, but nonetheless, like I said, the market didn't really move too much because of this, and then it didn't really outline how many of these limited editions they are having. I know in the past they always go over saying like 500 or 1,000 or whatever. This didn't really signal any of that. So let me know your general thoughts on that. Aside from this one thing, there really wasn't that much in like speculative topics, no new analyst ratings, no even articles coming out associated to NIO at all. So it was largely just algorithmic trading and the technicals. That's kind of what really did move NIO. Shorts did early on, especially in my pre-market video. They were guiding NIO lower. And I think even in the pre-market, they were increasing like 350,000. By the end of the day, they did increase 472,000, but they did hit it hard first. And so this is why you did see that little bit of a dip first thing, because shorts did pretty much increase straight out the gate. At the peak, they were increasing about 2.1 million shares. So 8.2% of the free floats being shorted works to be 167 million shares overall being shorted. So kind of crazy stuff. DTC does continue just to move on higher. So 3.74 days does really signal that shorts are very overextended. Looking at the options from today, 2.6 million in calls, 682,000 in puts, 53% of all the options being done were bearish in nature. From a bull standpoint, it looks like $5 is on the table, at least from their viewpoint, next week. Bears are anticipating for it to be between that 450 and 5. So definitely there is more upside based on that. With today being Friday, this is the open interest. So with it closing at 464 or wherever it did, roughly around there, that does mean that the 450 and 4 are in the money. Nothing significant, so you have 4,000 at the 450. So again, nothing too crazy in my opinion. On the secondary market, you had 4 transactions and no substantial buys. So big money wasn't really buying the NIO dip, unfortunately, and I think a lot of that stems to the technicals, but these are all the transactions that did occur on the dark pool. Like I mentioned at the very beginning, a lot of these hold numbers, so 50,000, 50,000, 50, 50, and so forth, a lot of that is hedge funds. Even the largest transactions today were about 149,000, 110, 100,000, 100,000. So definitely based on all of this, it shows hedge funds were pretty much unloading. When it comes down to the dark pool though, it is very hard to distinguish what is buys and what is sells, only because the whole point of the dark pool is supposed to be anonymous. But again, typically the hold numbers right here, that is hedge funds. Aside from that, with it closing at 464, it did break below this pivot point. So again, in my pre-market video, I mentioned that NIO really needed to hold this 474. I think during that time it was at like 475 or 476. So it really needed to hold that. And this is probably why shorts did hit it hard first, because typically that's what shorts like to do with NIO. They like to break it based on the technicals, and then they just sit back and they relax. That's it. So unfortunately, that's going to be a key level to really regain in the next couple of trading days. 458 is going to be the next strong support, and luckily enough that wasn't really tested. So 463 was the low for today. Aside from that though, getting back to over here, there really wasn't that much in articles. No new analyst ratings whatsoever. So last one was Macquarie, and that was done way back in January the 15th, even though we kind of had some articles coming out, I believe it was even yesterday or the day prior, just saying and acting like that was new, but it definitely wasn't. Aside from that though, looking on the actual chart, it did break below that 10-day moving average, which is rather unfortunate because last time it actually did really do the same type of price action. So it broke above these key levels and then it just kind of falls off. And even in my video yesterday, which was I was fairly optimistic, it was the third consecutive green day, I mentioned historically NIO does get hit and it kind of falls back, but it did need to hold that 10-day moving average, which it didn't, regrettably. So that's going to be something to really watch for going into next week. Looking at this, so stochastic RSI, because of the recent price action, it is considered neutral, so it's not overbought nor is it oversold. So NIO, it's, as I've always stated, is one of the most frustrating stocks to cover as well as to own, because logically it is trading at a pretty deep discount, and I think as of last week the PS is below 1. So mind-blowing discount. Just that's what happens with Chinese EVs. Interestingly enough though, if you actually listen to a lot of my videos over the weekend, sometimes I put out the top 5 EV stocks based on the quantitative data. And usually a lot of the Chinese EVs are top 5 easily. And it's kind of funny, some people kind of called me out, or not called me out, they're like, why is NIO number 5? I put it in order based on the metric for quantitative data. I don't determine that, I'm just reading the data. But beside the point, it's kind of interesting. Chinese EVs have higher quantitative data, but yet on the PS standpoint, a lot of them are trading at a significant discount. So it is, like I said, a very frustrating stock, but eventually when it does hit profitability, what happens operationally will more align with the stock price. So let me know your thoughts on NIO. Are you buying? Are you selling? What are you generally doing? One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades. Worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.